Welcome to the Watching Books podcast, the podcast where we discuss only books that have been adapted to both screen and stage. I am Edgar Allan Poe.
And I am a pirate.
Okay, so for our listening audience, because this episode is coming out on Halloween, we are in costume for this recording. So if you want to see us in costume, you can go to our Instagram or you can watch this on our YouTube.
Happy birthday!
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it is my birthday when this comes out on Halloween. Do you want to see something funny, Mom? Do you know what Edgar Allan Poe looked like when he smiled?
No.
That's what he looked like.
You were so goofy. Okay.
My husband, he was about to leave tonight. I walk out of the bathroom like this, and he just stared at me, and I was like, you can't say I don't keep things interesting.
That costume, it's almost scary how much you look like.
It's one of my favorites. Truly, I love him. And what pirate are you?
Oh, I
You're a
don't
lovely
care.
pirate.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thought
You
I'd
look
go
like a
with
wealthy
red.
pirate.
Yes, I know. I have the coat. I have the well, even the scruffy pirates had really fancy, roughly.
I was looking more at the hat.
Oh, yes, my hat. Yeah, thank you.
What was this wig bought for? How did you get that?
So I was the witch and Into the Woods. And
Yes.
I needed some hair for my transition. I needed a good wig, and I wasn't sure what kinda wig I wanted to go for. I thought, "Ooh, a
Well, I know
redhead."
that's not the one you wore.
No. So I bought this one, I bought another one. And, okay, now I didn't have to buy. I'm sure they had wigs. I'm sure the theater did. 1, I'm a germaphobe, and so I really didn't want someone else's wig on my head. But 2, I enjoy dressing up, and so having the wigs is a lot of fun. So, I bought this one, and I bought another one. I ended up wearing the other one.
The wig you wore for your witch transformation was amazing. I loved that
I
wig.
love that wig.
You're becoming more and more like Moira Rose every day.
I would love a wall of wigs. I have a few. I don't know. I think I have 5 or 6. I never wear them except Halloween or shows.
Well, like Moira shows us, who says you can't? Why can't that just be normal?
That's that's right. Dolly does it all the time. I have a sticker. It says, "What would Dolly do?"
Who's Dolly?
Dolly Parton.
Dolly Levi? Dolly
Dolly
Parton.
Parton. I'm in
Of course.
Tennessee.
Obviously, that's who you're talking about.
Everything's Dolly here. We have Dolly brownies.
I'm sitting here
and
going, Dolly Levi doesn't wear a bunch of different wigs.
I don't know if we've ever seen Dolly Parton's real hair.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I did look up for this if Edgar Allan Poe had a favorite drink, and he did, believe it or not. It was brandy eggnog, and it was a family recipe, apparently. And there was no way on God's good green earth that I was going to be drinking that. So I have a Blue Moon in a mug.
Whatever that is. Yay!
Happy Halloween.
I know.
I'm going to share what we're actually dressing up as for Halloween. I don't post my children on social media, so unfortunately our followers are not going to get to see these amazing costumes, but I will share what we're going to be. My infant son, by the time this episode comes out, he is barely 1. He's going to be Ebenezer Scrooge. I figured the rest of the 4 of us would be all the different ghosts in A Christmas Carol. And I really didn't care who I was. I was going to be whoever was left over. So my daughter, my 2-year-old, is going to be the ghost of Christmas past, obviously. And then I let my 12-year-old choose. He wants to be Jacob Marley. So I'm working on that costume.
Fun.
And my husband is going to be the ghost of Christmas yet to come. That means I get to be the one I was secretly hoping to get. And I'm going to be the ghost of Christmas present.
It's so much fun. You
And
need
so
a red
obviously
wig.
we're recording before Halloween.
You need a red wig.
I need something. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I was like, do I want to be, part of me really wants to wear a beard and be like true to the book. But then part of me is like, do I want to do a female version of this character? Because that could be fun too. And I found a beautiful headdress on Etsy that would look great. But I don't know. I haven't decided. I have time. So are you and Dad going to do anything?
I'm sure I'll dress up as something like this. I could be a pirate. I don't know. Who knows?
Y'all get a lot of
And
trick-or-treaters?
apparently we do, but we've never been here. We're always with you celebrating your birthday. This would be the
Right.
first year in a very long time we
I
haven't done that.
know.
And so first year in this neighborhood for us. So I actually posted on Facebook. I said, "How many children can we expect?" They said hundreds. It's like We have one of those neighborhoods.
Wow. We usually get, like,
Mhm.
1 bag of candy, and we leave it on our front porch, first come, first serve.
That'll be fun.
Any updates? Anything new with you?
Not really. Busy. I haven't even had
Same.
time to read my book club book, The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon? It's very good so far. I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I'm not even 100 pages in. So, I'm just busy.
I have an update.
Okay.
My 12-year-old and I finally finished the Harry Potter series. It is done. It's done. We
Yay!
have spent years reading the Harry Potter series. Just with our busy schedules, we couldn't do it every night, but we finally finished it. I read the entire series aloud to him. And he's a big, big reader. He's more than capable of reading it himself, but he
Oh,
really enjoyed that time. We loved that time. And I do all the voices and the accents as best I can. It would probably be offensive to some people, but I do my best. And we just enjoy that time together. And so I thought too, I was like, wow, this is sort of the end of an era. I don't think I'll be reading any more stories to him. I think we're done. We're past that. He's off reading really, really great literature on his own now.
so the book that he has chosen to read right now, for the life of me, I can't remember what it is. The Secret Garden?
For his literature class that I'm
Mhm.
teaching. I
Yes.
gave him 3 choices, and he chose The Secret Garden, and he'll write a full book report on it. But,
Does he
yeah,
like it?
I have no idea.
Okay, okay.
So,
That's
he's not
awesome.
talking well, he read The Hobbit with you, a few summers ago, 'cause you told him that if he finished it by the time he came to visit you, y'all could watch the Hobbit movies together.
That's right, and we watched the trilogy.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yep. And then he
It
asked me
was
if he could read Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, go for it, bud," but it is not like The Hobbit. Reading it, I don't think is the same experience at all, but that's
right.
just my opinion.
Yeah.
So, he hasn't picked that up.
Well, I'm ready to dig into this week's because this was big.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot here.
Do you wanna reveal what book we are watching this episode?
We are watching Dracula by Bram Stoker. So, this was the second time I've read it. I read it, I don't know, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I don't know, a few years ago, and I hadn't read it, even comparing it to anything else. So, this time I read it with the thought that I'm comparing it to other things.
Okay, I see. I did not reread it. I have read it, and fairly recently, I did not reread it again. I think I remember it pretty well.
Good, okay.
You'll probably jog my memory on some things with your copious
Oh, I
notes.
wrote it all down.
But yeah, I'm excited to dive into this one. It's been an interesting ride with this one. There have been
Oh,
a lot of things I didn't expect. I think most of our listeners are going to be pretty familiar with this story, at least in the way of pop culture and media. So even if you've never read the book or seen any of the Dracula movies, you're familiar with Dracula and who the character
mhm.
is.
So this was written in 1897, and I did just a tiny bit of research, and I thought, was this the first vampire anything? Nosferatu, vampires have been mentioned since like the 1100s. So for centuries before this was written, but this is the first novel specifically about vampires.
Mhm.
And then Bram Stoker, gives him the name Dracula, and it has taken off from there. Dracula is who we know as the vampire of all vampires.
Mhm. Yeah, and before we dive in, consider this your spoiler alert because
Yeah.
we are going to be diving into the book Dracula, as well as different film adaptations, as well as the musical adaptation, and other little things sprinkled in between. So just be aware that we spoil everything, and we don't really hold back. If there you go. But also, what was the other thing? The other thing, we are not deep divers. We don't do a whole heck of a ton of research. We do some research when we're curious about something, but we are not here to give you your full rundown of the history of books and film and theater, etc. We're just fans talking about things that we like. So, Mom and I love books, we love theater, we love movies, and we love to talk about them. And now we're just having those same conversations that we have had for my whole life in front of you. That's really what's happening here. So, this is a brief summary of Dracula according to ChatGPT because I don't have the time to actually write a summary. Here we go. The story begins in 1897 with Jonathan Harker, a young English solicitor traveling to a remote castle in Transylvania. He's there to help a mysterious nobleman, Count Dracula, purchase an estate in England. At first, Jonathan is treated as a guest, but soon realizes he's actually a prisoner. He notices strange things about his host. Dracula has no reflection, avoids sunlight, and shows a disturbing interest in blood. The Count can crawl down castle walls like a lizard and commands wolves. Jonathan discovers Dracula sleeping in a coffin during the day and realizes the horrifying truth. The Count is a vampire. Dracula departs for England, leaving Jonathan trapped. Meanwhile, in England, Jonathan's fiancée, Mina Murray, visits her friend Lucy Westenra in the seaside town of Whitby. A terrible storm brings a ship ashore, its entire crew dead. Only a large black dog is seen leaping from the wreck. This dog is Dracula, who has come to England. Soon after, Lucy begins to sleepwalk and grow pale, as though life itself is draining from her. Mina worries and sends for Dr. John Seward, one of Lucy's former suitors. He can't explain her illness, so he calls in his mentor, Professor Abraham Van Helsing, a Dutch doctor and scholar of the occult. Van Helsing recognizes the signs of vampirism. He uses garlic, religious symbols, and blood transfusions to protect Lucy, but it's too late. After several terrifying encounters, Lucy dies and then
Hmm.
begins appearing at night, preying on children near her tomb. Van Helsing leads Seward and Lucy's fiancé, Arthur Holmwood, to her grave. They find her transformed into a child hunting vampire. Arthur drives a stake through her heart, releasing her soul from that curse. Van Helsing then warns the men that Dracula is the true source of the evil and that Mina may be in danger. By now, Jonathan has escaped from Dracula's castle and returned to England. Weak but alive, he and Mina marry and join forces with Van Helsing, Seward, and Arthur. They piece together Dracula's movements through letters, diary entries, and newspaper clippings, forming a group determined to destroy him. They discover that the Count has brought boxes of his native Transylvanian earth to England, coffins filled with soil that he must rest in during the day. The group sets out to find and destroy all of them, cutting off his refuge. As they close in, Dracula turns his attention to Mina. He hypnotizes her and forces her to drink his blood, marking her as his own. She begins to feel his influence, growing pale and weak, able to sense his presence even from afar. Van Helsing protects her with sacred objects and uses her strange connection to track the Count's movements. They learn that Dracula, now cornered, has fled England by ship, returning to his castle in Transylvania. The group pursues him across Europe, racing against time before the Count reaches the safety of his homeland. Mina, though tainted, proves invaluable. She uses her psychic bond to locate him. At sunset, on the final day, they reach the Borgo Pass, where Dracula's coffin is being carried by loyal gypsies. As the sun sinks, the heroes attack. Jonathan Harker slashes the Count's throat with a knife, and Quincy Morris, another of Lucy's suitors, drives a bowie knife into Dracula's heart. The Count's body crumbles to dust, and the curse over Mina is lifted. Quincy is mortally wounded in the fight, but dies knowing they've triumphed. The evil is gone. The novel ends 7 years later. Jonathan and Mina are living peacefully with their young son, whom they've named Quincy in honor of their fallen friend. Van Helsing reflects that though many will never believe their story, they know the truth, that they faced the darkness and overcame it through courage, faith, and love.
Mm,
Yeah, it's very
yeah,
dark.
it is.
Gosh, we get so much from this one story. What do you think it is about the novel that has gone on to be recreated so many times over and show up in so many references?
I don't know, and I tried to think about it. What was it like to read this in 1897 for the first time? You know, this would be a horror and something to be really afraid of, and I don't know, it's just a fascinating tale of good and evil, really.
Mm.
Just great characters. He wrote great characters.
Yeah, I agree. And I know Bram Stoker did some of his research was inspired by lots of different types of stories of quote unquote vampires to formulate his own version of the mythical being of a vampire.
Right, all of these things that Dracula can't do or that affect him. He has no reflection in a mirror. He does not eat. He
Mhm.
doesn't drink wine, as he says to Harker. Offers Harker food and drink. Oh, I've already eaten. Or I don't drink
Mhm.
wine. As he's pouring it. We know what he drinks. But at that time, when they're first reading it, what are they thinking? I'd love to put myself back, go, what were they thinking when they read this? Because we grow up hearing about Dracula.
I mean, from a young age, we grow up with Count Chocula, the
Oh,
cereal.
yeah. Yeah, everybody knows what a vampire is. It's just fascinating to me. Oh, that he has abnormal human strength, and that's talked
Mhm.
about in the book, and that he can scale down an outside wall on his hands and
Yeah.
knees.
I remember, and I know we haven't gotten to the movie yet, but I remember seeing that image in, I don't know what year it is, but Gary Oldman's Dracula, that freaked me out. I didn't enjoy that. The crawling down the wall. Blech. Anytime people crawl on walls or ceilings, it really disturbs me. It's
You
effective.
can't go out in the daytime. There's so much, and I guess it's a lot to play with.
When you read the book, because you just read it, what was the experience like for you? Was it an enjoyable one?
It's not one of my favorites, I enjoyed it. I think it is so well written, especially for 1897. I felt like Van Helsing just went on and on and on and on and on, and I got tired of him talking. I found him a fascinating character, and he's Dutch, so he's always going back and forth from Amsterdam to England and Amsterdam to
Mhm.
England, and I thought, "That had to be a lot of travel back then. Why didn't he just stay put in England?"
Yeah, I think and was this Bram Stoker's debut novel? I think it was.
I don't even know anything else he wrote.
Let me see. So, no, this was not his debut novel, this was his 7th. It is
It
it's a
oh,
long book,
400 and something pages.
and
It is.
when I read it, I thoroughly enjoyed the whole first half of the book. I was invested, I cared about several characters, I thought it was fascinating, I thought there were parts that were genuinely disturbing in a good way, the way you would hope from a horror novel.
The layout is really good. It's written from the point of view of Mina's diary or letters,
Mhm.
Jonathan Harker's journal, newspaper articles, the doctor's journal, and really interesting diary and journal entries, and that's all it is. And Van Helsing's.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and I like that feature too. I think it's neat. But the second half of the book, throw it in the trash. Let's redo it. I don't
I
like it.
enjoyed it more than I thought I would the second time,
Okay.
because I think I was reading it in a comparison mindset. I've seen Bram Stoker's Dracula quite a bit, and so I was thinking ahead going, "Oh my gosh, this is just like the movie. Oh my word, this is just like the movie," and I was so stunned at what they got right, not right, but how the movie did in adapting it from the book.
Well, I will say, I did not read it with a comparison mindset because honestly, when I read this, I had not seen any versions of Dracula. I was aware of Dracula, I knew who he was, I knew the tropes, but I had not seen a retelling of the story before. So, reading it, I was sort of going in just with a kind of an open mind, not knowing really where the story was going to lead.
Right.
And it up until their, big old camping trip to Transylvania, and it feels like the same 40 pages are repeated over and over and over again. It was like a time loop I couldn't escape from. I just wanted them to get there.
Oh my gosh, the hypnotizing over and over, and she said the same thing every time. "I see water, I hear water lapping on a boat." Over and over and over, and yes, that happened a lot.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, there are some quotes that I really liked in the book. When Jonathan Harker comes to his house in Transylvania, Dracula invites Harker in, and he says, "Welcome to my house. Enter freely and of your own will." That is so freaky to me, and then he says it a second time, "Welcome to my house, come freely, go safely, and leave something of the happiness you can bring." I just thought that was so creepy. Another quote that I like that Dracula says, Dracula lays his hand on some books and he says, "These friends have been good friends to me and have given me many, many hours of pleasure." Books.
Yeah, it's a nice quote if you don't know that Dracula's the one who said it.
I love it though. And then I wrote down, I wonder what Dracula likes to read. And a little bit later, it says, through them, he has come to know Harker's Great England. So he was reading up on England. So researching what damage he could possibly do to it.
Aw, as we all do.
Let's see, another quote that I liked. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Dracula smiles at Jonathan Harker at one point, and Dracula's described as with a smile that Judas in hell might be proud of.
I remember that quote, yeah.
What?
Nervous laughter.
I mean, that one is, oh my gosh.
You know, honestly, I kind of wish I had reread this because I remember a specific part that really gave me the creeps that I thought was so good, but I'll never be able to find it. If I manage to find it, I'll post it on Instagram.
Page 214 of the book. So that's over halfway through the book. Vampires mentioned for the very first time.
Hmm.
Vampires, they can be wolves, bats, mist, or on moonlight rays as in elemental dust. They can become small. It is the craziest thing, the different
Mm,
shapes and forms that vampires can be.
it's creepy.
One thing they didn't mention was Renfield.
Renfield? I
Yeah.
know! I wanted to mention that. Not through reading the book, but through later adaptations, Renfield has come to be my favorite character. But that's
Yeah.
because of how other adaptations have interpreted the character, not necessarily because of how he is in the book. In the book, I could take him or leave him, honestly. And I thought it was interesting that my summary didn't even mention Renfield because part of me does look back and go,
He's everywhere.
what was his purpose? What was the
Mhm.
why did we need Renfield? I know he was being held, like, in an asylum?
Yes, an insane asylum.
Yeah, and that he has a connection with Dracula, and he eats bugs, like flies that he can catch in his cell, and he's always talking of his master is coming, his master is coming. I don't remember what happens to him in the book. What happens, Mom?
He ends up dying.
I thought so.
Page 304, he died. What I did like was when he met Mina, Mina was very kind to him, and he understood what she was meaning to his master, which is Dracula, and he was telling them, "Get her away. Take her away."
Mm, mhm,
He was trying to save her, to
that's
protect
right.
her. It's almost like he was the only one that could tell that Mina wasn't the same, that she was changing.
Maybe he recognized some of himself in her because he knows what it's like, yeah, to be under Dracula's spell.
But he ends up being killed by Dracula.
Hmm. Renfield in the book, I could take him or leave him, I guess. He's interesting. I think he definitely gives it more interesting flavor, but I also think the story would still be solid without him if we're
And
just looking at the
really,
original book.
you don't really know what his purpose is, like you
Yeah.
said.
I don't get it. I don't know what the
Right.
point is. But I'm sure we have listeners who are much more familiar with Dracula, the book, who could give us more insight into that, who probably have done more thought on it. And I would love to hear from you guys because I want to know why Renfield was important to Bram Stoker, that he was written in as a character. Why do you think that is?
Yeah.
Because what later adaptations have done with the character, I absolutely love, and I'm so glad that he's included. I wanna know if you have any characters that you like from the book itself. Don't think about Winona Ryder, don't think about Gary Oldman. Who do you like from the book?
I didn't think about that as I was reading.
Is there anyone you'd be sad if they weren't there anymore when you read the book
I
again?
I'm thinking I like Arthur.
Me too!
I like Arthur. That is Lucy's fiancé. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
And I also like Dr. Seward. And he too,
Yes.
he was so in love with Lucy. I like the book Dr. Seward. He, did everything he could to help her, but I really
Yeah.
like Arthur, so I think those 2 men were probably my favorites, but let me say from the book, Mina was amazing.
Mm, I
She was
agree.
brave, she was strong. They treated her like they would treat women back in the late night 1800s and like, a little girl, but
Mhm.
she was very strong. It was because of Mina that they were able to find Dracula and end his reign of terror. She's the one that said, "Please hypnotize me. Let's find out where he is because this is going on in my body. I have this connection." In the book, they are not lovers. Mina and Dracula,
Mm,
it's nothing like
right.
that. He was gonna end up being another bride of his, so that's another thing. He has 3 brides at his house, and there are 3
Yeah.
undead women who live there, and they are part of what kept Jonathan Parker captive there for as long as he was captive.
I actually like all 3 of Lucy's suitors in the book.
Mm.
And also, yes, as much as he drones on, Van Helsing is such a cool character. And when
He
it comes to
is.
adaptations of Dracula, it's so rare to find Dracula without a Van Helsing too, because he's so cool.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Before we get into this, I have to talk about something. I want to know how many Dracula movies I need to watch. Yeah, that's never gonna happen. Ever. I'm never going to spend that much of my life watching Dracula movies. So let's just go over a brief list of some Dracula movies inspired by the book. There are over 200 films that either adapt, rework, riff on, or are explicitly inspired by Bram Stoker's Dracula. I am not going to go through an exhaustive list. It's not worth it. But the most notable ones are the 1922 Nosferatu movie, which is a German silent film. I watched that one.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, my library had it. Then there was the 1931 Dracula with Bela Lugosi as Dracula, and then the sequel, Dracula's Daughter, and then Son of Dracula. So those 3. Then in the 1950s to the 1970s, we had Horror of Dracula, The Brides of Dracula, Dracula Prince of Darkness, Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, Taste the Blood of Dracula, Scars of Dracula, The Satanic Rites of Dracula. 1970s to the 1980s had Bram Stoker's Dracula, but no, that was a TV movie. And then Count Dracula, Nosferatu the Vampire. And then the 1990s had Bram Stoker's Dracula in 92. This is the one that most people are familiar with when it comes to Dracula adaptations. And then Dracula Dead and Loving It, the Mel Brooks spoof of uh the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula. Yeah. So I had no idea Mel Brooks had a Dracula parody, and I need to see it.
Me either.
My husband would love that. In the 2000s, there was Dracula 2000. And then in the 2010s to 2020s, there have been several reworkings, TV series, and films that I'm not even going to list. But there was a modern remaking of Nosferatu in 2023 or 2024, I think, with Lily Rose Depp and Nicholas Hoult and Willem Dafoe. Great cast. And then in 2023, Renfield, comedy retelling, which focuses on Renfield as a character, with Nicholas Hoult again playing Renfield and Nicolas Cage playing Dracula. So, not to mention, there's also the Hotel Transylvania movies.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
So tell me about the silent one you watched.
Okay. The 1922 Nosferatu um, was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. It very closely follows Bram Stoker's Dracula. It follows the storyline very closely. However, all the characters' names are different. So Dracula is actually Count Orlok, and Mina is Ellen. Jonathan is, I can't even remember his name. I know Renfield is Knock. So it follows the story pretty closely from beginning to end, except I think Nosferatu sort of evaporated at the end.
What was the point of changing all of the names?
I have no idea why they changed the names. I don't know what copyrights issues looked like back then. I have no idea if that was maybe part of it. I really have no clue. But It definitely follows Bram Stoker's Dracula. It was completely silent, so there was an original score made for the film that you can listen to while you watch it, and anytime characters have lines, which are very few and far between, it shows you a line card. So it flips to just a blank screen with the line that someone says up there on the screen. If you've never seen a silent film, that's an entertaining part of it. Most of it is just a lot of overdone play acting so that you can understand what the characters are doing. So those films had to be very action heavy because they were going to be very, very, very light on the script and the lines themselves. And I thought it was really entertaining. Nosferatu himself, like Count Orlok, is one of the most terrifying characters I've ever seen. And for this to be a 1922 film, I was so impressed at how many times I was watching the screen. I was folding laundry while I was doing it, and I would just look up and see Count Orlok, and I was like startled. And I would just go, "That's amazing. That is so cool." I'd pause it and be like, "Ray, get in here. You've got to see this," because I was so blown away by how good he looked. He's really uncomfortable to look at. So I thought it was a fun experience. I would recommend it. It's only like an hour and a half long, less than that. And it was fun. My children could watch it with me, which was great.
Yeah, they can also watch the Bela Lugosi one too.
So, speaking of Bela Lugosi, you watched the Bela Lugosi movie, didn't you?
I did.
And it was from the 30s?
Yes, it is the 30s. I found it strange. There was no music in the movie at all. None. That was so weird to me. It is amazing how much music adds to a film. It adds to the intensity or the romance or the fear factor of a film. And this had absolutely none. So it's very odd to me. But they go to business immediately in that film. Dracula says he has chartered a ship. He's taking 3 things and will leave tomorrow. And I was like, whoa, because Jonathan Harker in the book is there for weeks before Dracula leaves.
Well, I noticed that it's not Jonathan who goes to visit Dracula. So they
Oh, yeah,
streamlined
you're
the
right.
story by not having Jonathan Harker go. He introduces himself as Renfield, and I was like, "Wait, huh? What?"
Me too.
They give they give a whole backstory on how Renfield becomes Dracula's henchman or familiar or whatever we wanna
Yes.
call him.
I did find it funny. Several times I would laugh at the lighting. Now, Bela Lugosi is the epitome of Dracula, how everyone based their Draculas on, and he would do this eye stare.
Right. Yes.
And there was like a little block of light that would light up his eyes in this stare, and it was so funny to me, and then just the eyes, and you could see the little rectangle of light, and then you saw Lucy did it, and Mina did whoever oh, Renfield did it too. I mean, the little block of light on their eyes to make them glow. Oh my gosh. That was hysterical. But Bella, his Dracula moved extremely slow. He had the long flowing cape, fabulous cape. But what I find interesting, I wanted to compare the look of Dracula compared to the book. And so this is the book's description of Dracula.
Mhm.
Very strong face, aquiline nose, high bridge of the thin nose, and peculiarly arched nostrils with a lofty domed forehead and hair growing scantily round the temples, but profusely elsewhere. His eyebrows were very massive, almost meeting over the nose and with bushy hair that seemed to curl in its own profusion. His mouth was under the heavy mustache, fixed and rather cruel looking, with peculiarly sharp white teeth. These protruded over the lips, pale ears with pointed tops, like an elf, I guess. Chin broad and strong, cheeks firm through though thin, and the general effect was one of extraordinary pallor. So the look, it did not look like Bella at all to me, but he's old. He is obviously old here. Bella Lugosi, he was not old at all. In Bella Lugosi's movie, this was so bizarre to me. So Dr. Seward is in it. He is old. Lucy is with
Uh-huh.
him, and Mina is his daughter, and she is with
Yeah. That
Harker,
was
but that
weird.
was
I don't know why they did that.
and the Count me either. They go to the theater, the Count joins them in their box at the theater. It's like, "What?" I was just, "What?" And he sits in that box with his sights on Lucy. He focuses in on Lucy right away.
Do you think maybe, look, I don't know. I don't know why they chose this, but do you think it had some misogynistic reasoning behind it? That because we wanted to be sympathetic for Lucy, she couldn't have multiple suitors?
Maybe. I don't
I don't
know.
know. Was Mina Lucy's daughter too,
Mhm.
or just Dr. Seward's daughter? Okay. Yeah, that
Well,
got confusing.
I don't know. Dr. Seward was with Lucy. I figured they were married. I don't know. But I did find it funny. I have Lucy finds the Count fascinating, and he's young, she's young. She goes to sleep, and he comes to her. And then the next scene, Lucy's dead from loss of blood. They moved that movie right along.
Yeah.
It moved fast.
Yes. I felt like Van Helsing didn't have much of a presence.
Not in that one. He's the one that notices that he can't see the Count's reflection in a mirror. So he does recognize that.
Oh, that's right. That was a good scene. Yeah, I liked that
Yeah,
scene.
I thought that was really good too. It's like they have a cigar box that's
Mhm.
open and there's a little mirror on it. That was well done. Good scene.
They make it to Transylvania. If I remember correctly, they find his coffin in his castle and he's asleep and they just drive a stake through his heart. Am I remembering that right? It seems
Yes.
so anticlimactic.
Yes. Van Helsing drives the stake through his heart. Mina's released from his spell. And then that's
Yes, and it
mhm.
happens off screen, of course. Can't show that. We can't show that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. They didn't show anything.
when the movie was over, I will say that my husband and I watched it together, and by the end of it, I looked at him and I was like, I did not expect that my favorite part of that whole movie would be Renfield. And Ray was like, he was cool. And Ray, ever since then, has been copying Renfield's laugh. So that's fun. I'm really enjoying that.
So I watched a horror of Dracula 50. I don't think I've said this. I had never seen Bela Lugosi's Dracula, and I had never seen this Dracula. This Dracula stars top billing was Peter Cushing. He is Van Helsing. For the Star Wars fans out there, 1977, he's Grand Moff Tarkin. So he's Tarkin who ends up exploding. This is Leia's little planet. And he also played Victor Frankenstein in
This
1957.
is going to expose me for the lack of a Star Wars fan that I am.
Maybe. Sorry.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
That's okay. Other people will, I hope, right?
Oh, yeah, they will. Not me.
Christopher Lee is Dracula.
I do know who that is, and he's Count
Michael,
Dooku in Star Wars. There
yeah,
you go.
here you go. Michael Goff is Arthur Holmwood, and he's Alfred in Batman, and he was also in Sleepy Hollow.
We had another Michael.
Okay.
This is the second time we've had Michael Goff and Christopher Lee. They were both in Sleepy Hollow.
Yes, amazing. So Harker is at the castle. Dracula only has one wife, and she goes to Harker and she's talking to him. Can you help me escape? Please, I want to get out of here. Please help me escape. And she runs off when Dracula shows up. He's young. So Christopher Lee as Dracula moved very quickly. And of course, he's 6'5". So he has a large gait anyway, and he moves very quickly through the house, unlike Bella, who was slow as a snail. And so I did enjoy him. He looks great. You know, that height makes him look rather intimidating. And so I thought he looked really good. Well, Harker pulls out a picture of a woman. Dracula asks about her, and it's his fiance. It's Lucy.
Harker's engaged to Lucy?
Lucy is engaged to Jonathan Harker, and Harker ends up finding Dracula and the woman, and he drives the stake into the woman's heart because he wrote in his journal and said that he is there to end Dracula's reign of terror. That's why he was there.
Wow. Wow, that's very different.
It gets better. So a very British Van Helsing shows up looking for Jonathan Harker, and a waitress in a little pub gives him Harker's journal. So Van Helsing rushes to the castle in search of Harker. Well, Jonathan Harker has now been turned into a vampire, and he is lying in a coffin as a vampire.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. And so Van Helsing drives a stake in his heart, and Jonathan dies.
My gosh. I was not expecting it to go this direction.
No. Okay, so Lucy has a brother named Arthur who's married to
Oh,
Mina.
no. No, why? Why?
Lucy's sick in bed. She has already been bitten by Dracula. He appears to Lucy, and of course, she
Wait,
ends
wait,
up
wait, wait. When did
dying.
he get there? When did he get to England?
He took a boat over.
Okay.
There was a little girl who sees Aunt Lucy walking around. So the brother runs to her grave and she's not there. And Lucy has this girl, and Arthur calls out to her. She's about to attack Arthur, but Van Helsing pulls out the crucifix. And then Van
Mhm.
Helsing drives a stake through Lucy's heart. And Mina is then summoned to Dracula's lair to see him. And of course, this is in the Abbey there in England. She gets bitten, all this stuff. She starts turning. And Dracula takes Mina with him to go back to Transylvania, and the men are chasing him back to the castle. Well,
Mhm.
Dracula begins to bury Mina alive right outside the castle in
What?
a shallow grave. And he runs inside, and Van Helsing opens the drapes to the sun, and Dracula is blinded by the daylight, and Van Helsing holds up the crucifix, and Dracula dissolves, and Mina is saved.
Ooh, that's an interesting ending. That sounds kind of exciting.
But what I want to
Totally
know is,
different from the
how are
book.
there sequels?
Loosely inspired by the book. Wait,
How
there
are
are
there
sequels to
sequels?
that?
Dracula, yes, there are like 3 more
Dracula's
with
little dust
Christopher Lee.
particles formed back together. I don't know. It's like a soap opera. You can bring people back from anything.
I think that one was the most different of any that I saw. That was just like, what
Oh,
is
I can't
going
wait to
on?
tell you about Renfield.
Well,
That's hilarious.
I
So you said Christopher Lee, he was younger, obviously, because of the
uh-huh.
year, but he's tall and has this intimidating height. We both know he has an amazing, deep, deep speaking voice, which could also add to that character. But how do you think he did as Dracula? What did you think of the performance?
I thought he did a great job. And Peter Cushing, of course, did an excellent job as Van Helsing. He didn't drive you crazy like he did in
Mm.
the book. I didn't care for the movie because they changed it so drastically.
Yeah. That some of those changes I don't understand. I guess maybe they knew by that point audiences were familiar with the story enough that they really wanted to surprise them, really give them something different. I don't
Maybe
know.
so.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I
It
truly don't
was
know
it
why
was
they make
very different.
changes like that. So, are we talking about the quintessential retelling of this story? So, I let me just give a little intro and I'm going to let you take it away with your thoughts first because I was aware of this movie from a young age. I don't know how young. I just know you talked about it a lot. I know that you really admired Gary Oldman's performance. I knew that you loved Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing. And I knew you loved the soundtrack. And I think I was in college and I was like, I'll just listen to the Bram Stoker's Dracula soundtrack. And I remember being so creeped out by some of the music that I thought, that must be really effective for this movie. The fact that I can listen to this music and feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up because the music is so effective. But I really didn't know much about it. You didn't tell me much about it. I just knew you really liked the movie. And I knew that Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins were in it. What I did not know was literally everything else about the movie.
Yeah.
So
I
take it
liked
away,
it.
Mom.
I liked it back in college, rewatching it because I have not seen it in 25 plus years. And so I did put it in for this to sort of remind myself But back in college, I did watch it a lot, but it is very evil, and, I don't like that. It's very, very dark, and I don't really do dark.
Mm.
Um, so, Sadie Frost is Lucy. This is the ex-wife of Jude Law, if anyone knows, and, of course, Winona Ryder
What?
is Mina. Yeah, yeah.
Pause, 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 pause. She was
Yes, Sadie Frost.
wow, okay,
Yeah.
didn't know that. Now I do.
And one thing I did not know, Monica Bellucci, she is one of Dracula's brides, and I only know her now. She is a Bond, I won't say girl, she's a Bond woman. And Daniel Craig's Spectre, and I love her. And she's Persephone in two Matrix films. So she's not in the first one, but she's in.
Okay.
But I
Wow, and
really
she was
like her.
one of Dracula's wives.
Yes. Yes, I did
Okay.
not know that, and, of course, Gary Oldman is Dracula, and Anthony Hopkins is Van Helsing, Keanu Reeves, Jonathan Harker, and let's go ahead and put it out there, Keanu himself said he was not happy with his work in this film.
Oh, did he?
So,
Okay, that makes me feel
yes,
a lot better. Okay, that is one of the worst acting performances I've ever seen in my entire life.
it's pretty bad. Richard Grant, this surprised me. He's Dr. Seward. Wow, he was so young, I never even recognized him.
I don't know who
So
that
and then
is.
Carrie Elvis is Arthur, who's going to end up marrying Lucy. And, of course, this is directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
Yes.
So, what
Brilliant
is
director,
different?
brilliant.
Brilliant. They created a backstory for Dracula, and Dracula
Mhm.
is it was in the gosh, what century was it in? Like the 1200s or
Don't
something,
ask
and
me, you know me and timelines, it does not work.
Dracula was married to Elizabeta, and
Isn't he supposed to be Vlad the Impaler? Because that was one of the inspirations that Bram Stoker had for the character of Dracula. Or am I just
oh, you could be right.
completely off my rocker?
I did write down that he was a Romanian knight,
So
so maybe it
maybe
is
maybe that's
Vlad,
what inspired it, was the fact that he's a
maybe.
lot like Vlad the Impaler or is inspired directly from Vlad the Impaler, but I do know that that character or that historical person inspired Bram Stoker, and I think they were referring to that in the movie.
Okay.
If not directly,
Well,
then indirectly.
Dracula and Elizabeta are married. Dracula has to go off to war, and the enemy sends a message back to Elizabeta, who is played by Winona, and tells her that her husband has been killed. So she commits suicide. Well, the priest there, when Dracula does come back and finds out that his wife had committed suicide because of these false rumors, the priest, who is played by Anthony Hopkins, says, "Your wife is damned because she took her own life." And Dracula renounces
Mm,
God. It's a very hard scene to see. And
mhm,
says he will rise from his own death to avenge hers with all the powers of darkness.
mhm.
It's dark. It's very dark.
It's a hard scene to see, but also, I think it's very understandable for the character of Dracula and how we would end up with such an evil
Yeah.
being.
Yes.
It kinda makes sense.
So everything's the same. They did a good job comparing the book um to this movie. There was so much alike. When Harker goes, you see him with the high forehead, with the this old man, and you see him better as described by the book.
Yes, yes. When Ray and I watched this one, this was a few years ago, I could not believe that that was Gary Oldman in that costume. The voice, the accent, the costume, the makeup, everything. I know what an incredible actor he is. I'm not surprised, but it was just mind-blowing how amazing he was. And I also thought Gary Oldman had to have been inspired somewhat by Bela Lugosi's performance because when he is that old Count Dracula that Jonathan Harker goes to see, he moves so slowly and kind of the way he speaks and his cadence, I was like, that reminds me a lot of Bela Lugosi.
Right. Yes. I did find it interesting that Van Helsing says that vampires can walk around in the day, but are weaker. So that's something the book does not have at all. But they have that for the movie because once Dracula sees Jonathan Harker's portrait of Mina, he sees Mina and said, that's his Elizabeta because they look exactly the
Mhm,
same. And so he feels like this is it.
mhm.
I'm going to get her back. He sees her picture. And when he goes
Yeah.
to England on the boat, when he shows up in England, he's young.
Mhm.
And he walked around during the day. I was like,
Yeah.
how's he walking around during the day? Well, they fixed that.
That's also a great costume.
He looks fantastic. That whole image of him, really good. Very, very good.
When Gary Oldman played Sirius Black, you were like, "Oh, he's Dracula." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because I was in high school. And you were like, "Oh, Dracula." I'm like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." And you pulled up YouTube and you looked up that specific scene where he's young Dracula on the street, sees Mina, and he says, "See me."
Yeah.
And she looks at him. But you showed me that scene. So that was all I had to go on when I went to watch the movie. But you were trying to help me understand that Gary Oldman was such a versatile actor, and I think I walked away from that going, "Oh, okay."
Well, Mina, when she does see him, she says she knows Dracula. So it's almost like she can see the past. And you do see his eyes become red and his canine teeth grow. So in this one, the canine teeth grow before they bite. And he's about to bite her, but then he doesn't. Because it's Mina. And she's crying. It's like she knows him from the past. And he turns her tears to diamonds.
From what I
That's funny.
remember, there was a lot about this movie that I thought was very melodramatic, which I will say would be aligned with the book. I think there's a lot in the novel that's very melodramatic.
Oh yeah.
So it's not untrue to the story, but also they do show all his many forms, which was harder for earlier adaptations to do. We were laughing about I think it must have been Nosferatu, the silent film, and the black dog that comes off of the ship. We were trying to figure out what that creature was that they had in the movie. My son was like, "Is that a hyena?" I was like, "No, it's too small to be a hyena." And my husband's like, "That's definitely not a wolf." I'm like, "I don't know what that thing is." It's like a weird, like, in between hyena wolf thing. I don't know what that creature was, but they had real footage of an actual animal that is not intimidating at all. So they were working with what they had with their level of technology back then. And so for a film like this, they were able to do so much more in the 90s than they could back then. So you can see
Mhm.
him as a bunch of bats. You can see him as Mist. You can see him as different versions of Dracula, and it's believable. You can see him as
Mhm.
the wolf, but he's like a wolf man. Ugh, I hated that so
I did
much.
not like that at all. So a little bit of information about that. Gary Oldman was allergic to that costume as the wolf, and so they had to get another actor to do that.
Ugh.
Yeah, he couldn't do it. He was allergic. But so you do see all of that. I felt like poor Lucy had a bad rap, just naked all the time, and I felt like
She was.
nudity was gratuitous, and it was unnecessary. It didn't add anything to the film. I thought it was stupid. So I didn't care for all of that.
I agree. I thought it was gratuitous.
But
Yeah.
Lucy does die same way. They do end up chopping her head off and stabbing her in the heart and everything. Well, while Jonathan Harker has been away going crazy and held in that castle, Mina and Dracula have been having an affair. And she is in love with him. But then she does finally find out that has escaped from the castle and escaped those brides. And so she tells Dracula, I've got to marry him. I'll never see you again. She rushes off to Romania to get married. And Dracula's just sobbing. He's so devastated. Well, they're already married. And Dracula goes to Mina's room and she is furious with him and tells him, You are who killed Lucy. She was just devastated over Lucy's death. She tells him she loves him after she quit getting mad at him, but that she loves him. And she wants to be what he is. And he bites her but then she drinks his blood. He pulls oh, well, she starts to. He pulls away from her and says, "No, he loves her too much." And he did not want to condemn her to that life. But she drinks anyway. Oh, it's just too much. It's just too much. And so in the end of this, so they go back to Transylvania and they're chasing Dracula back. And she and Dracula leave Dr. Seward, Quincy, and Arthur, and Jonathan, and Van Helsing, and Mina takes Dracula inside the castle. They let her go. And he asks her to please release him from this life. And she stabs him in the heart and cuts off his head. But Jonathan just
So on
loses his
rewatching
life.
Mom, you loved it in college. And I know
Yeah.
as like just in being in a different stage of life and growing a little bit more and developing a little bit more, things that I loved and thought were just pure art in college, I've just changed my mind on, or I've changed my perspective on. And I might still think they're really great and can appreciate them, but I see them differently. How has your opinion of this version of Dracula changed?
It is very evil. So I wasn't following the Lord in college. As a Christian now, it just goes against everything that I believe in, and it is so evil, and it is, it's very dark and very hard for me to watch something like that. I fast forwarded a lot. I wanted to get the gist of it just to remind myself what it was. I
Mhm.
definitely got Draculaed out. I watched so many, but it's not for me.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's not my type of film.
Yeah, and knowing who you are now, I can totally see that. I can see why you appreciated it, and I think you can still appreciate the skill of the direction from Francis Ford Coppola, the acting performances minus poor Keanu Reeves, the music, I think you can
Yeah.
appreciate everything about it and still recognize that it's not for you, and I would agree. I think when we watched it, when Ray and I watched it, I think he fell asleep, like, 10 minutes in. And I watched it, and I just ended it going, "I don't get why mom liked it so much."
A different time in my
Uh,
life, for sure.
yeah, I thought Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing was great. He was so
Best
cool when he
friend.
had the heads of Dracula's brides hanging off of him because
Mhm.
he had beheaded them, he had defeated them, and he was like a true vampire
Yeah.
hunter in this version, which is, I think, where we
Yeah.
get the first look at Van Helsing as a vampire hunter, which then came up in other adaptations of him being more of like a
Mhm.
vampire hunter than just a professor.
Right, definitely.
There were I think my favorite parts of this movie happened with Jonathan Harker and Dracula at the castle in the beginning, because Gary
Mm.
Oldman was so mesmerizing
Mm.
at that point, and I think the story just sort of goes off the rails from there, honestly. I just really liked the scenes of Dracula at his castle. He's so
Yeah.
gosh, there's not a word like disturbing just isn't good enough. He's just very off-putting. And his behaviors just are he seems so nice and welcoming, but at the same time, he is so disturbing.
Creepy.
And yeah, just ugh. And it's done so well. There are so many uses of the shadows. Dracula's shadow will move where Dracula is not. I thought that was so good, and I don't think I noticed it at first. So I loved that detail. I thought Winona Ryder was amazing in this movie. I thought she was great as Mina, even though I thought the love story between her and Dracula just did not make much sense. I think this
Mm-mm.
story really tried to up the idea of Dracula as a seducer. So the evil works through seduction. That's the only way to really get what Dracula wants is through seducing you or his prey. And so that's probably the reason for the nudity, etcetera, which I thought was over the top. I thought it was just unnecessary, like you said, it was gratuitous. You don't need it to tell this story effectively.
No.
The only part where I could really see it making sense was with Dracula's brides entrapping Jonathan Harker, and even then it wasn't necessary, but what do you expect from Hollywood? It's definitely an epic film. It's
Mhm.
great. It's great direction, great performances. Poor Keanu Reeves. I don't know what was going on with him. But I will say something that I didn't see in other adaptations was that in the book, Jonathan Harker is so stressed out, his hair turns white when he returns to England,
Right.
and his
Yeah.
hair turned white in this film and then
It
magically went right back to
it did.
normal. I don't know what that was never explained. But I also was very pleasantly surprised to see Carrie Elwes because I had no idea he was in the movie. So I loved seeing him
Yes.
always. I always love seeing Carrie Elwes. Oh, and I will say,
What?
one of the eeriest parts of the book that always gets me in any adaptation is when Lucy is dead and then she's not in her grave. It's very disturbing, it's very creepy, and she is enticing children. She's preying on children, these innocent little babies. It turns your stomach.
That is horrible in the movie because Dracula brings the brides back a babe.
That
Yeah.
image is burned into my memory. I don't ever wanna see that scene ever again where he holds out that newborn baby. I hate
It's
that.
pretty bad. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
bad.
So, yeah, I feel kinda sick. Can we talk about some lighter, versions?
Sure.
Let's talk about Hotel Transylvania. Hotel Transylvania has, like, what, 3 or 4 movies now?
Yes.
And Adam Sandler is Dracula. And if you've never seen it, please watch it. It's a DreamWorks movie. It's animated. It's just fun. Dracula runs a hotel for monsters, and he has a daughter played by Selena Gomez named Mavis, and she falls in love with a human named Jonathan. It's adorable. In the second one, Mavis and Jonathan are married, spoiler alert, obviously. And they have a little boy, a baby, and he's just so cute. And Dracula's nervous that he's not going to be a vampire. And so he's constantly looking for signs that he's going to be a vampire. And he and Jonathan, his son in law, have to bond. It's so cute. The third one, I think it's the third one that introduces Van Helsing. And he's Van Helsing the eighth or something insane like that. He's being held together by machinery to be kept alive. Andy Samberg is Jonathan. Gosh, maybe it's the second one that Van Helsing shows up. Is that right? Kevin James plays Frankenstein. Steve Buscemi is Wayne. Wayne is a werewolf.
Okay.
David Spade is the Invisible Man. Fran Drescher is Eunice, which
Great
is
cast.
Frankenstein's bride. Molly Shannon is in it, Megan Mullally, Nick Offerman. I mean, the cast is great. Dana Carvey. It's awesome. Mel
Wonderful.
Brooks plays Vlad. Vlad, Dracula's father. So it's a great cast. I'm trying to figure out who plays Van Helsing. Jim Gaffigan. And then Catherine Hahn shows up. She's, I believe, Van Helsing's daughter, great granddaughter, something. I don't know. She's related to Van Helsing. So anyway, great cast in these movies, and they're all great, honestly. I enjoy all of them. The second one just happened to be playing. Mom, I did not plan this. It just happened. I think my son had turned it on, and my daughter was watching it. And I walk into the room, and Jonathan, the human, is standing there in a Dracula costume. And he and Dracula, played by Adam Sandler, are arguing over his costume because he's supposed to look like a vampire. He's supposed to be in disguise. And Dracula's like, "What are you wearing? That's ridiculous." And he's like, "It was the only thing that would ship overnight," or something like that. And it's literally Gary Oldman's costume from when he's old Count Dracula in the 90s movie. And only adults are going to get this reference. I'm going to have to put an image of it up on our YouTube because it cracked me up. I'm sitting there laughing, and my daughter is like, "I don't get what's funny." But I was cracking up. I thought it was a great reference, great joke.
That's great.
Um,
Yes.
I love those. I think they're really cute. They're obviously not trying to follow the Dracula storyline closely, but they're fun. They're a lot of fun.
I think they are too. I like them.
Okay, so Renfield. I specifically got this one for this podcast because I was curious and I did not expect to enjoy Renfield's character so much. After watching the Bela Lugosi Dracula movie and really coming away loving Renfield's character and that actor who played him, I was looking forward to seeing Renfield. So it's a comedy about Dracula, except we're focusing on his henchman, Renfield. But it's set in modern day, and Renfield is really tired of working for Dracula. So Dracula needs to get back to full health. He's been really injured by like the church. And so he's trying to be nursed back to full health again. So Renfield has to bring him victims. The only issue is that what really heals Dracula is the purity of the victims. So he wants victims who are pure of heart, basically. But Renfield has only been bringing him abusers and criminals and things like that. So Renfield has joined a support group for victims of codependent and toxic relationships. And he listens to these people's stories and he really cares about these people. So he goes out and he finds their abusers and he takes them to Dracula. And Dracula is played by
Whoa.
Nicolas Cage. Renfield is played by Nicholas Holt. And it was one of the goriest movies I've ever watched in my entire life. It's all very cartoonish gore. It's very silly, it's very improbable, but it is very gory. And there's a whole
Mm.
plot line I'm not even going to go down involving the mafia and stuff like that. But ultimately, Renfield's goal is to get away from Dracula. And there's a police officer played by Aquafina, and she was in the second new Jumanji movie. I don't know if you saw that one. Did you see that one?
Good. Who was she?
Good question. She was one of the characters that you can become when you go into the game. It's
Oh,
kinda hard
okay.
to it's been a while since I've seen it,
Mhm.
but she's hilarious, and she plays a cop who pairs up with Renfield, basically, they team up to fight Dracula. But Nick Cage, his Dracula is defeated by the window shades coming up, and he gets burned, and that helps do a lot
Oh!
of the damage. But then what I thought was absolutely hysterical was by the end of the movie, Aquafina and Nicholas Holt, or Renfield and the police officer, they managed to kill Dracula, but they're just not sure. And Renfield is like, I have seen him come back from so much worse. He's like, this might seem like overdoing it, but trust me, like his narrator voice comes over. He's doing a voiceover. He's like, this seems like a lot. This seems like overkill, but trust me, I have seen him come back from some crazy situations. They are totally just destroying Dracula's body in the most ridiculous ways. And it's very funny. Very gory, but very funny. And he's like, "We just really wanted to be sure that he wasn't gonna come back."
Oh my
And
goodness.
it ended, and I told my husband, I did not expect to walk away from this movie saying, "That was cute." But what
Wow.
it was really focused on was honestly, I could do a whole video on what it's like to try to leave a narcissistic relationship or a relationship with a
Oh,
narcissist.
well, I loved the clip that you sent
It
to
was
me
really
about
good.
it because it was it
Yes!
was spot on. It was almost like they took Nicolas Cage, Nicholas Holt, and and put them into the movie of Bela Lugosi's Dracula. That's what it looked like to me. It truly that had to be what they did. It was
It was!
that spot on.
It is. Yes. That's exactly what they
Crazy.
did, and I told my husband we were watching it, and I told Ray, I was like, "I am so glad that we just watched the Bela Lugosi movie because I could really appreciate this." For anyone who hasn't seen it yet or who isn't familiar with the Bela Lugosi film, the intro to Renfield has a bunch of black and white scenes where Renfield has a voiceover explaining his history with Dracula and how he ended up working for Dracula, and they used scenes that were spot on, looked exactly like the Bela Lugosi film, but with Nick Cage and Nicholas Holt. And it was just killing me. I
It
thought it
was
was
it was
hilarious. It was so funny.
I was surprised by how
Yeah.
impressed I was with Nicolas Cage.
Like, the movie ended and Ray was like, "Well, that wasn't Nick Cage's best acting work." And I was like, "It's kind of hit or miss with him." He was great pretending to be Bela Lugosi's Dracula. As his own version of
Okay.
Dracula, it sort of went downhill from there. So, I wish he had, like, continued with the Bela Lugosi voice the whole time. He didn't.
Yeah, that'd have
So,
been a
that was
great
sort of a
spoof.
disappointment.
Wow. Would you
Yeah,
recommend
so
it?
I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a cute movie, and I would recommend it to the right audience. I wouldn't recommend it to you. It
I
was
don't wanna see
really
gore.
gory, and the language was excessive,
Yeah,
but
that.
Renfield was adorable. He was such an adorable character. This was a funny part, you'll appreciate this. Renfield gets himself a little apartment. He thinks he's broken free of Dracula, he's going to start his new life, and he has this cute little apartment that he's painted in all these really bright colors, and he goes home one night, he walks through the door, and Dracula is sitting at his table, and Renfield is just looking at him, and he looks out the front door, and he looks down at his welcome mat, and it says, "Welcome, come on in." And he realizes, "Oh, yeah, that wasn't a great idea." I thought that was a funny detail. So, because Dracula has to be invited in.
They make a point of that in The Lost Boys, which of course is the vampire movie with
Yes.
Kiefer Sutherland, and the head vampire has to be invited in before he can come in.
Yes. Why, I love that movie. I was hoping you would mention The Lost Boys, because there are so many vampire movies inspired by Dracula and just the idea of vampires, and I don't know how many people realize that just the concept of vampires in general and what we think of them and the tropes about them, most of that comes from Bram Stoker's imagination,
Yeah, it does.
and, The Lost Boys is one of those, and I love that movie so much. I will never forget watching it with you for the first time, and I couldn't believe you were the one introducing me to that movie.
I think that's why that line stood out in the book where Dracula's come in of your own free will, basically, to my lair.
Mhm, yeah, where he then entraps Jonathan. So, I have not seen the new Nosferatu. I've heard it's very good. It's directed really well. I'm gonna give a little shout out to Cinema Therapy, which is a YouTube channel. They covered Nosferatu. It's a great video where, they break down what it looks like to leave a toxic relationship or an abusive relationship, and it's very well done, and I thought it had great insight, so I did watch that, and they gave great insight into the making of the movie as well as the themes of the movie. So if anyone wants to watch that, that's at Cinema Therapy on YouTube.
You haven't seen a stage production, right?
No, I have not.
You listen to the soundtrack. Okay, so there are 2. There is a play, and when I was a little girl, my dad took me to see it. I think I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and
Wow.
Miklos Benzi, who ended up being my voice teacher when I was in college, had been a professional opera singer, and he played Dracula. His makeup glowed in the dark, and my dad took me to see him backstage, and I was terrified of him, and I wouldn't speak to him ever again until I was an adult. He terrified me. It was very, very scary. The play was October on Broadway, 1927 to May of 1928, starring Bela
Wow.
Lugosi on Broadway.
Really?
But then yes, but then it came back to Broadway October 1977 through January 1980, starring Frank Langella, and he was Dracula. He's just a 4-time Tony winner, that's all. No biggie. And he was nominated for a Tony for his role as Dracula.
Oh, he's amazing. Wow.
There's a movie version of Dracula starring Langella that I had gotten from my library, but by the time I watched so many Draculas, I was Draculaed out and I didn't watch it, and I should have. So then I watched the Broadway show. It was from 2004. This starred Tom Hewitt as Dracula, and presently, he's Hades in Hadestown. And Melissa Rico is Mina. And then Kelly O'Hara is Lucy. I love Kelly O'Hara. 8 Tony nominations. She won for Anna in The King and I. I mean, I love her. This was one
Yes,
of her
she's
earliest
amazing. She's a
things.
Broadway legend.
So, yes, Broadway legend. And then others who I just don't know. Darren Ritchie was Jonathan Harker, Stephen Henderson Van Helsing, and Don Stevenson Renfield. So the voices were gorgeous. Holy smokes. Mina and Jonathan, they sing their journal entries, their duet, absolutely stunning. It was called Over Whitby Bay. Beautiful song. And there's just a lot that's very much like the book. And for a stage production, and of course it's Broadway, wow, the special effects were amazing. They have 3
Tell me
glass
about that.
coffins. Oh my gosh. I mean, just everything that they could do. Lots of different levels. And on Broadway, you see the stage where they move you along a moving walkway and that kind of thing. all kinds of just really, really neat things. But the 3 glass coffins have the 3 brides. At one point, when Jonathan's there, he wakes up on top of a glass coffin, and he can see in, and there's this woman in
Oh.
the coffin. Oh! So Dracula sings, and then he ends up biting Jonathan. So he starts off old. When he bites
Oh.
Jonathan, he pops up and he's young. What? Really nice quick change that they did with him. That was pretty neat. Oh, Renfield. You would like him in that. His solo, that actor has to have an
I know I
enormous
would,
range.
because his song is the best one in the whole dang show.
Enormous range. Huge. So shout out to Don Stevenson, who played Renfield in this. Wow, his range was something else. Lucy and Mina sing a duet. It's so light and airy. It's not dark at all. You would think you're at a park on a beautiful Sunday afternoon and not in a horror play. I found that funny.
Gwendolyn and Cecily singing.
Yes, yes. Parker and Mina get married when Lucy and Arthur get married. So they both get married at the same time. They're in different locations, but you see both weddings
Okay.
going on. And that was interesting. But
Mhm.
now in this musical version, Van Helsing's from South Africa. He's from Johannesburg. Why? I don't know. This was a shocker for me. We see Lucy. Lucy is Kelly O'Hara. She is sick in bed. In all the versions, we see her take off the crucifix, take off the garlic. She wants nothing to do with it. We see that going on. Well, she rips off the crucifix. She's standing up, and all of a sudden, her nightdress is ripped off with lightning, and she's completely nude.
Oh, well, that's a choice.
That's a choice. And I said to myself, did I just see what I think I just saw? And I was stunned. And she walks to the bed and climbs in the bed. And Dracula comes, covers her with his cape, and bites her. But it was just like, what in the world did I just see? Holy smokes. Well, Arthur does end up putting the stake through Lucy's heart. And later on, Mina starts getting frisky with Dracula. She rips open her bodice. And so she's naked from the waist up for Dracula, too. I mean, they dropped their top for Dracula. So
Ugh.
I have to say, that's stunning. I did not expect to see that. Those women are brave. They don't do it once and it's in a movie and it's done. They're doing it night after night for however many runs. They are
Yeah.
brave. I just could not do that. So it's interesting because Mina in the Broadway musical, she loves Dracula, like in Bram Stoker's Dracula. What about Jonathan? What about poor Jonathan? And Dracula says to her in this,
Mm.
if you love me, set me free. Give me back my soul. And she stabs him in the
Mhm.
heart with a knife. And then Jonathan comes back to her and they embrace. And I wrote here, music, not my favorite. So you don't leave singing anything.
It seems like it was inspired a lot by the '90s Dracula movie. Did it feel like it was?
Yes, it did more.
Because that's what people are gonna know. That's what audiences at that time were certainly gonna be familiar with
Yeah.
if it was
So,
2004. Yeah.
it was 2004.
I no, I have not seen a stage version of Dracula. I listened to the it's not the original Broadway cast recording because Kelly O'Hara is not in it, but it was a professional recording of the original musical before it went to Broadway. So they had a group of people come together to record the music before it became the actual show. I don't know if it's
Okay.
like the studio cast recording. I don't know what they would call it, but that's what I listened to. And I just remember listening to the first few songs and I was so bored. I'm so bored. I'm so bored with this music. And I was like, I get it. Like, I get it. We want to be melodramatic and we want to, it was not my favorite. And I remember listening to it and thinking,
Yeah.
this is almost as self-aggrandizing and pretentious as Jekyll and Hyde, the musical. And turns out it's the
Mm.
same composer. So
Well,
Frank
I
Wildhorn, I
saw a
think
clip.
he's an incredible composer.
I saw a clip of Ethel Merman, and she was talking about Broadway today versus when she was on Broadway, and she had a few things to say about it. But one thing was that she wants to leave humming a tune. She wants to leave feeling like she was a part of that show and with the music and how the music, really spoke to her. And she doesn't feel like Broadway musicals today do that, not like they did when she was on the stage. And I thought that was really interesting because I think back to some of the older musicals, which I adore. And some of the newer ones don't have that same effect for me, and I can kind of see what she's saying. And she doesn't care for, all the four-letter words in shows and stuff, and not that she never spoke like that, but it's just to entertain people. She didn't feel it necessary.
That's a really interesting point, and I think that this musical is definitely not one you can leave humming a tune.
No.
Um,
I
there
can't
was
tell
it
you
was
the
just
first thing.
ballad after ballad after ballad, and I just didn't care. I thought that some of the music was beautiful and the voices were gorgeous. I didn't care.
Yes.
Like, it did not draw me in. Maybe
Obviously,
it would have been different if I had seen it on stage, like, if I could see it with the acting performances and the script and the special effects, but just listening to it, I was not interested, and it's very hard to leave something like Les Mis humming a tune, but you can still leave that show going, "Whoa, that was incredible."
do you hear the people sing?
Um
You do leave singing that show.
Yeah, you can hum that. But this one, ooh, I will say I loved getting to hear Kate Shindle. So on this recording, she was Mina. And when we
Oh,
cover Legally Blonde in the future on the podcast, she was Vivian, the fiance in Legally Blonde on Broadway. So in the musical, I should say. So it was really cool to get to hear her really at her fullest because she doesn't get to show off her voice much in Legally Blonde until the very, very
mhm.
end. But in this, she really got to sing and she has a beautiful voice.
Oh, yeah.
And then I liked hearing Norm Lewis as Van Helsing. He has an amazing voice.
They had beautiful voices. That was one thing. It was a joy to listen to them because Kelly, I've always liked, and I love her voice.
So Frank Wildhorn, who composed this, like I said, I thought it was very self-aggrandizing. It's just very, as you listen to like song after song after song, it's like, okay, we get it. You sing great. Okay, that's how it starts to feel. Where it's like, can the songs move the story along, please? And that's why when it got to the master song, which is the Renfield song, I was stoked. The song is great. It breaks up that slow pace of all the ballads. It actually explains something that's happening in the story, which I loved. And it's just a great song. It was so much fun. It was memorable and it stands
Aw.
out from all the ballads that you're hearing. So I really loved the Renfield song. It was so good. And it's called the Master's Song. Frank Wildhorn, he's a great composer. He really is. I couldn't do it. I can't read music. I can't play music. I can't do anything with music. So I am not one to sit here and critique someone's composition who's made it to Broadway multiple times. But I will say this was not my favorite musical. And I would say I,
No.
I much prefer his Jekyll and Hyde over this. Jekyll and Hyde does also have song after song after song where people are just honestly showcasing their voices. And if you can do that, that's amazing because it makes for a great audience experience. But that music too, oh, it's really good. So I definitely prefer the Jekyll and Hyde musical. But he also did Bonnie and Clyde, which is so
Yeah.
different and is really good
Oh,
music.
yes. So Kelly O'Hara and Tom Hanks, they're starring together in the new off-Broadway play, This World of Tomorrow. So it's premiering this month, October
Wow.
2025, at the Shed in New York City. Tom Hanks co-wrote the play and stars in it as Burt Allenberry alongside O'Hara.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat. So they're on off-Broadway. That's neat. So there
Yeah,
you
that is
go.
really cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, I had seen
So,
it
all
pop
right.
up, I think on
You saw several adaptations of Dracula. What would you pick? What would you watch again?
none.
None of them.
No,
Wow.
I am Draculaed out. If I did one again, it may be Bella's. It's short. Hotel Transylvania.
Yes, Hotel Transylvania is the way to go. I really enjoy
Definitely.
Hotel Transylvania, and my kids are on a huge hotel kick, and they have been watching it, and I'm still not tired of it yet.
I might maybe I'll get Frank Langella's. I'm curious now. since he starred on Broadway, why didn't I watch it? I was Draculaed out. I was done because it's dark.
Me too. I wanna watch it too. You should find it. See if one of us has it at our library, and we'll watch it when you
Okay,
come to visit.
yeah,
Um,
I could do that.
let's see. Of the ones that I watched, I would totally watch Renfield again. Would I wanna
Oh,
be in it?
okay.
No. No. No.
Neither.
Well, okay. If I could sing Renfield's song, sure. Otherwise, no thanks.
I have no desire to be in this. I'm too old anyway, but
Would you?
I would not want to.
Okay.
No, no desire.
Yeah.
And I'm too old
Same.
anyway, but
Not my
even if I
favorite.
was young enough, no, I wouldn't wanna be in it.
But yeah, I would totally do Jekyll and Hyde. In fact, I did audition for that, but I'll save that story for another day, because I'm sure we'll cover that one when we watch that book one day.
Sounds good. I
Gosh,
don't
you totally
remember
look like
this
you're just
story.
some
Or
guy.
maybe I do.
I look like a man.
It's crazy. Yeah. You're so funny.
It's the mustache.
Well, cool. And the eyebrows.
All
Your
right.
eyebrows are
Well,
fierce.
yeah, yeah, I definitely overdid the eyebrows a little bit. I don't know which one we're doing next, so it'll be fun for our listeners to figure that out. But please, to our wonderful viewers and listeners out there, please like and subscribe. Please, if you're on YouTube, hit the notification bell so that you're reminded of any future episodes we put out. And please comment. What versions of Dracula have you seen? Which ones are we missing out on? Because I know there are so many. I'm sure you've seen one that we absolutely have to see. And tell us what you think of the story. And if you could be in the musical, who would you want to play?
Thank you so much for listening, for watching. We appreciate it so much. And we just love talking about it. Alrighty. Thanks for watching and listening. We appreciate it so much.
Yes, and we'll see you next time when we watch books.
Good night.